keys to beating Georgia. Obviously, Georgia kicked our butt the first game in Austin. Second game, I think we should have won the football game. Guess what? They didn't. Winners win, guys. It's going to be hard to knock off a team that's won multiple national championships the past half decade, been to 4 straight SEC championships, and especially at their house. That's going to be hard to do. So, Gerald, what are your big keys to the game of beating Georgia this weekend?
Yeah, I think the first one really is just, get the running game going and whatever that looks like. And I don't mean the running game in the classic sense, establish the run, but I mean, whatever that looks like, whether it's supplementing it with some outside stuff, supplementing it with some quick passes, but really keeping Georgia, and especially on early downs, keeping yourself ahead of the chains to keep Georgia from keying off on you, keeping them guessing. This isn't your, I'll say, older brother's Georgia team where they're going to have, 10 of these guys drafted into the NFL draft this year. But ultimately, this is still Georgia, and they've still got a ton of dudes, and we've seen them. They're coming off a 3-sack performance against Mississippi State. So, getting things going at the point of attack, controlling the line of scrimmage, really not even having to control it, just don't get abused at the point of attack like they did, in Austin last year. That is the biggest key to me, because that is when Arch gets rattled, when he has guys in his face constantly, that's when things go off the rails. But when Arch is able to get comfortable, when Arch is able to kind of get his feet underneath him, he starts to play and the team responds to that.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I was on the Georgia show earlier. Those guys are going to be joining us about 10, 15 minutes to break down the game further. But I think you're going to have to run Arch Manning design runs. I don't mean him scrambling 8 to 10 times in this game. If you're not doing that, I don't know what you're saving him up for, because this, to me, this is just as big of a game, if not bigger, than any game we've had on the schedule all year, because this is sending a message to a team that has dominated the SEC basically the past half decade. If you want to be that team, you're going to have to beat that team at some point, and we have yet to do that. We didn't compete really in the first game that much, other than, a couple spots in the third quarter, but first, second, and fourth quarter, they dominated that football game. The first half of last year, we dominated, and we still couldn't beat them. So at some point, there's going to become a mental block if we don't actually win one of these games versus Georgia. You're going to see, the kind of mental block that Ryan Day has for whatever reason versus Michigan. I think so that's one key to me. Number 2 is I need a somewhat big Trey Wisner game. Trey Wisner every once in a while pops off a big game. We saw that versus A&M last year. We saw it versus Oklahoma last year. We saw it versus Oklahoma this year. That's really been his only big game this year is Oklahoma. He popped up, won us that football game. I don't need that production, but can I get 90% of it versus Georgia? If I can get 90% of that type of production from Trey Wisner, I think Texas can win this football game. And then no, go ahead.
Can you sell him that Georgia is a rival? Because there is nobody that shows up in rivalry games better than Trey Wisner. That man hates Oklahoma. That man hates Texas A&M. Can we sell him that Georgia is a rival? Because if we do, he's going to go off. The South Dallas is going to come out, and he is going to pop off on somebody. I'm with you.
And then can the offensive line, is that what we saw versus Vanderbilt? Is that real? That's going to tell me in this game if it's real, because I'm going to be honest, guys, and I was on their show. Their pass rush hasn't done much all year. They have 11 sacks. So if all of a sudden we go into this game and we've given up another 5-6 sack game versus Georgia again, I'm going to be like, well, two things. Our offensive line, that was an abnormality versus Vanderbilt. That's probably not going to be expected the rest of the year. And there's something they are doing, because they really weren't that great at rushing the passer last year, and they dominated us 15 sacks in 2 games. That they have something on us. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just mano-a-mano. We're better than you. We're going 5 defensive linemen, because that's what they did, 5 down front. You just said one-on-one, we can kick your ass. You can't let that continue. So that's got to stop. And hopefully, again, can we play to that standard of Vanderbilt? The Mississippi State game, we had 26 pressures allowed in that game. Vanderbilt, we had 6 with the new look offensive line. We're going to find out Saturday if that's really what this offensive line is going to look like this whole year. I don't expect 6, because they're really good defensively. But can I get 10 pressures, 12, like that in that area? If we're there, we could win this football game.
I mean, 26 pressures is 85% of Arch's dropbacks in a game, right? So again, and especially with a quarterback like Arch, he's going to be okay with 10-ish pressures, right? Because he's got his feet, he's mobile, he can reset the pocket. The frustration for me with the offensive line, and kind of what you're talking about, Georgia did a lot of movement and simulated pressures and kind of disguising things that really got in their heads. And this, Kyle Flood is too good of has been too good of an offensive line coach for those things to still be an issue. So I wonder what they're prepping for this week. Last year, Georgia came to Austin and did some stuff that they didn't really have on film yet. And so I wonder what Kirby is dialing up and dialing in for this. Now, did they have a bye last year before this game? I don't remember. They didn't have a bye heading into this one.
Yeah. No, I don't think they did. I don't think either team had a bye last year.
Okay. Well, so Texas has the bye, right? So they've got 2 weeks to really work on what they're expecting to see from Georgia there. I think the other piece for me is limiting, again, this seems like basic football 101, but Georgia, like limiting turnovers, Georgia is too good to gift them an extra possession. Like regardless of how, this not being the Georgia of 3 years ago, which seems like a silly thing to say, but like they are too good, and they've shown that they are able to take an inch there. You give them an inch, they're going to take a foot. And so like if turnovers, empty possessions, going into the red zone and not punching the ball in, I consider those turnovers as well, right? Where it's not on a turnover on the stat sheet, but going into the red zone and getting stonewalled or going into the red zone and having to kick a field goal, that's as good as a turnover in a game like this where every possession is going to matter. And so, you've got to maximize every one of your drives. Every series he's ended a punt on the offensive side of the ball, or in a kick, not a punt. Every series he's ended some sort of kick, right? Extra point, field goal, punt. No turnovers, and if hopefully turning those into extra points.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say too. Guys, our defense does a good job of getting turnovers. We don't score off those. I don't think I'm pretty sure the last 4 games when we've gotten a turnover, we've yet to score. Well, no, we did. We scored versus Vanderbilt. That was the first time in a month that we scored off a turnover. So do that again. And Sark pointed out this today, but he was wrong. He said 0 turnovers for the Texas offense the past month. That's not true. We did have one versus Mississippi State, but that is it. You've had 1 turnover the past month on the offensive side of the ball. So keep that rolling. That's how you win these type of football games. And we got it. Listen, we've gotten a little bit better. We have. But we got to stop these dumb penalties going from 3rd and 1 to 3rd and 6, 3rd and 6 to 3rd and 11, 2nd and 5 to 2nd and 10. This is way too hard of an environment, one, and this is way too good of a football team to be doing that against.
Yeah, and to Sark's credit, the 1 interception should not have been an interception. That should have been a caught ball by Parker Livingston. And I may not ever get over that because that was one of the best balls Arch has thrown all year. And he's missed on 2 of them. It's basically the same pass. But that's just my own trauma. But yeah, like you said, like the Georgia team, regardless of how up and down they've been or how cardiac they've been this year, gifting them extra possessions, gifting them extra field position, putting yourself behind the chains, you're not good enough to do that and beat anybody, much less Georgia. We saw it against Florida, right? Texas went to the swamp. They gave Florida extra yardage with penalties. They gave Florida extra yardage with bad blocking, kind of getting beat at the point of attack, and Florida is able to key off on it, right? Georgia's better than Florida. We've seen it, right? That is a thing we know objectively at this point. So if you do that against Georgia, things are going to go bad really quickly.
100%.